If you're lying awake at night worrying about HMRC debt, letters are piling up, bailiffs are knocking, I want you to listen carefully. It is possible to legally write off your HMRC debt, protect your personal assets and start again, and I'm going to show you exactly how. Right now, thousands of UK directors are facing crippling pressure from HMRC. They think that they've got no way out. They fear losing their homes, their savings, or even facing bankruptcy. They're absolutely terrified about enforcement action and afraid they'll never escape the cycle of debt. But here is the truth. There are proven legal methods that will allow a business to write off HMRC debt completely and rebuild your life and your business safely. Now in this video I am going to explain precisely how to write off HMRC debt legally and permanently through options like liquidation, voluntary arrangements and administration. You're going to learn exactly how these processes work, who they're best suited for, the risks that are involved and the exact steps you need to take today to protect your future. I'm Chris Worden, I'm from Director First. Every day I speak with directors just like you, good people, often family businesses who have ended up in debt with HMRC through circumstances mostly beyond their control. Sometimes it's because of a tough market. I mean, crikey, this is probably going to go out in June or July 2025 and it's an absolute bloodbath out there. Sometimes it's an honest mistake or cash flows drying up suddenly. A lot of the time, people don't pay HMRC because they've not been paid off someone else. Now, the stress and fear that directors face, regardless of how they've got there, is always the same. Like genuinely, I've seen directors at breaking point. I've seen directors make the ultimate sacrifice. I know of directors who have committed suicide over business debt because they were convinced there was no escape. And I'm also proud to say that I've supported lots and lots of directors and helped them find genuine relief once they understand how these legal protections actually work. And today I'm going to help you understand your rights and your options clearly, without jargon, without judgment, so you can make the best decision possible for you and for your business. But listen, before we dive in, please hit the subscribe button now if you value clear, straightforward advice designed specifically for UK company directors, or if you like handsome, bold chaps that wear big glasses. Listen, you're not alone. Director First is here to help you through every step of the way, and let's get into exactly how you can write off HMRC debt and start afresh. So, let's clear up exactly what we mean when we say write off HMRC debt. Like, a limited company could owe corporation tax, it could owe VAT, could owe PAYE, it could owe national insurance, it could owe a combination of all four. And it quickly becomes overwhelming. HMRC don't wait. Once you miss payments, they're going to send letters. If you don't respond to letters, they're going to get phone calls. If you don't respond to letters or phone calls, it's going to escalate to debt collectors. And ultimately, it could end up with someone coming into your business, taking away assets, or you could get wound up via a winding up petition. Here's the critical point that lots of directors miss. HMRC debt is an unsecured debt. That means in certain insolvency procedures, like liquidation, like an administration, it can be legally written off. In a process like a CVA, company voluntary arrangement, potentially it could be significantly reduced. And that's not, you're trying to dodge taxes. It's about using the law, using the Insolvency Act to manage your business and your debts fairly, okay? Genuinely, when your business can't pay them, okay? You've got options. Now, I want to talk about what HMRC can do. They can issue statutory demands. They can issue winding up petitions. They can use enforcement agents. You might call them bailiffs. If they wind the company up, your bank account will get frozen. And ultimately, if you don't do anything, if you don't deal with HMRC, they're going to push your company into a compulsory liquidation scenario. And that is a problem that must be avoided at all costs. What HMRC can't usually do, listen, they don't automatically come at you and take your house or your personal assets, okay? It's business debt. Like Chris Worden Limited, the debts of Chris Worden Limited, VAT, PAYE, are not the debts of Chris Worden. And they can't force you to personally pay company debts, okay? Unless you've been really negligent or you've acted very carelessly, that can come down the line with personal liability notices. Too many directors mistakenly believe HMRC can directly seize their personal assets without proper cause. And in reality, 99% of personal liability situations arise only when the directors have made the most serious of mistakes, okay? It happens, misusing lots of company funds, premeditated fraud against HMRC, blatant disregard for insolvency rules. Now, one huge myth that holds directors back is the belief that you can't escape HMRC debt. Listen, simply, it's not true. Legally and ethically, insolvency procedures exist precisely for these scenarios, okay? It's to protect you, it's to protect creditors. And when a business can't pay its debts and it needs a fresh start, you can use these procedures to start again. And how it works in practice, let's take the most common one, which is a creditor's voluntary liquidation, okay? Or liquidation for short, voluntary liquidation. Unpaid HMRC debt will typically get written off entirely, okay? Now, once you appoint the liquidator will try and realise some assets of the business. They might come to the director for an overdrawn loan account, and their hope is to try and recover some money in. And if there's no charge holder, there's no debenture on the company, a dividend will be paid to HMRC because they are what we call a preference creditor, okay? But typically, HMRC debt in a liquidation will get written off in its entirety. With a company voluntary arrangement, CVA for short, HMRC debt can, in certain scenarios, be significantly reduced. Sometimes, okay, by up to 70% and paid over time. Every situation is different, guys, okay? Sometimes in CVAs, you're going to have to pay 100p in the pound back to HMRC, but it can be reduced. Now, in an administration or I've got right itchy nose, apologies. Through administration or pre-pack sale, the viable parts of a business are generally sold to a connected company or a new company, while the old debts, including HMRC, remain behind in the old company. They're written off. And when you're buying the businesses back as part of a pre-pack, what will generally happen is one of the reasons for an administration over a liquidation is there's going to be a better return to preferential creditors than that liquidation scenario. So in a administration, it's likely the HMRC could get some money back, but it'll be vastly diminished and most of it will get written off. Now I want to reassure you clearly, right? Directors in the UK successfully write off millions in HMRC debt every single year, legally, responsibly, okay? And it's because they use these insolvency procedures exactly as they were intended, okay? Now, I want to dive into what are these procedures? And we'll go back to a creditor's voluntary liquidation, CVL liquidation, voluntary liquidation, whatever is easiest for you to say. It's the most common and it's the safest way to legally write off HMRC debt when your company's insolvent. Now, remember, you can understand whether you're insolvent using the corporate insolvency test. First one is cash flow test. Can you pay your debts when they fall due? If you can't pay HMRC, you are insolvent on a cash flow basis. That's not necessarily enough on its own to pull the plug, but then you've got to go into the balance sheet test. If you total up all your assets, cash in the bank, vehicles, money due in, and that's going to come in against what you owe, if your liabilities are more than your assets, you are also insolvent on a balance sheet test, okay? And then there's legal action test. Can you pay, has anyone taken legal action against you? Have you got a CCJ, you've got a stat demand? It's another reason that you're insolvent. Now, if you are insolvent, okay, you look at these insolvency processes. And here's what a liquidation means practically. You voluntarily choose to close your company before HMRC or another creditor forces it. You appoint a licensed insolvency practitioner to manage the closure properly. Hopefully, you're getting advised very well by this bold chap on YouTube to do your due diligence on the insolvency practitioner, check all the reviews and make the right call. Maybe give director first a call, okay? And then the insolvency practitioner asks for a list of information off you, you give it them, they ask you to sign your notices, and the IP notifies creditors, including HMRC, that you're going into liquidation and there's a creditors meeting. And they'll also assess as to whether or not there's going to be any realisations made. And if there are any realisations made from assets or going after directors for directors' loans, or there's cash in the bank, they could distribute those funds fairly in order of preference. And if there's no debenture, some of that money could be distributed to HMRC. But most importantly, once your company enters into liquidation, all outstanding unsecured debts like VAT, PAYE, corporation tax, they're written off. And you as a director can move forward free from that ongoing stress that the HMRC has been giving you. It's transparent, it's legal, and thousands of directors use this process every single year. And here is exactly the process and how it unfolds in the UK. Step one is you get some initial advice, okay? You speak confidentially to a professional advisor. I'd love you to ring one of my team. It's not a necessity, okay? But we're very good. And they will confirm whether a CVL is the right process for your circumstances. Step two is you formally appoint the licensed insolvency practitioner to take control of the company. You cease trading immediately. Then the next step is the insolvency practitioner gives notice to all the creditors, including our HMRC, and we inform them that there is going to be a creditors meeting. Once the IP is appointed, the next step is, can they get any asset realisations? Does the company have any assets, equipment, stock, money owed in? Is there any cash at the bank? Is there any money they can collect from connected companies or from the director themselves? And the key is to try and raise money to distribute back to creditors fairly. Next step, an investigation's conducted on the director, okay? The insolvency practitioner has a duty to investigate you as a director and report to creditors and to the insolvency service. And they're going to investigate transactions, they're going to look for wrongdoing, they're going to look for misuse of funds, they're going to go through absolutely everything. And if they find something, and if there's something to find, they'll report that back to the relevant parties and they will do it on the report to the insolvency service. This is where you potentially can have some problems personally. You can write off HMRC debt, but if it's shown that you have acted improperly, that insolvency practitioner can start coming at you and make you personally liable for some or all of that debt, okay? But once all this is done, the company's closed, the debt's written off, you know. Once complete, it might take 12 months. On a standard small liquidation, it might take 12 months, okay? And at the end of that 12 months, that company's status on Companies House will go from in liquidation to dissolved, okay? And it's all done legally. Now, what I want you to be remembered, what I want you to remember here is the key thing is to take advice early, okay? If you're struggling with HMRC, you bury your head in the sand, something will happen. You're better off picking the phone today. The quicker you pick the phone up, the more options you've got. Now, I want to give you some quick fire questions around liquidations, okay, about your biggest concerns. People will think, right, do I have to pay personally for a liquidation? Usually no. You can pay for your liquidation out of the cash in the bank or the asset realisation that's going to be made by the insolvency practitioner, okay? If you've got no cash at the bank, you've got no assets to realise, it's highly likely you will be asked to pay that liquidation fee, okay? Another question is, can HMRC chase me personally after liquidation? Listen, in 99% of cases, no, as long as you've acted honestly, okay? Personal liability arises only if you've misused company funds or you've completely ripped the arse out of it. And if you've done something wrong, you could be held personally liable by way of a personal liability notice. And we're seeing more of those. For you to understand whether HMRC are going to chase you personally, I really need to understand the specifics of your situation. I'll give you an honest opinion. Another question you're going to be thinking is, does a liquidation stop bailiffs and legal actions immediately? Yes, it does. Once you're in liquidation, all creditor action stops immediately once the liquidation begins. Another question you're going to have is, can I start a new business after I liquidate another company? Absolutely, yeah. Many directors will close a struggling company and successfully trade shortly after in a new company debt-free. Unless you get disqualified from being a director, and that is the minority of cases. Again, once we understand the specifics of the insolvent company, we can give you a view as to whether or not we think you will be disqualified from running a company again. Okay, so sometimes, okay, if your business is genuinely viable, but it's drowning under historic HMRC debt, potentially a CVA could work for you. And that's if you've got lots of legacy debt problems that are hitting you, you've got some cash flow issues, but in amongst it all, okay, you've got a good business. And a CVA is a formal agreement between your company and its creditors, including HMRC. Bear with me, my coffee machine's turning off. It's designed to help you repay either all of the debts or a proportion of the debts, usually over a 3 to 5 year period, based on what your business can realistically afford. And it allows your business to keep trading. It keeps jobs intact and it avoids liquidation entirely, okay? And here's how a CVA process unfolds. Again, step one is you make an initial assessment. You pick the phone up to somebody, you meet with an insolvency professional and you discuss the situation. And one of the tools that they'll look at is if a liquidator, they'll go through what a liquidation will look like, they'll go through an administration, and then they're going to go, is a CVA a feasible solution here? And if it is, the step two will be put together a proposal. Like it'd be a detailed, realistic repayment plan, and it's created with you and your finance function, and it shows exactly how much debt you can afford to repay, okay? And all of this is put into what we would call a draft proposal, draft CVA proposal, and it's essentially a story of how your business, if your creditors agree to the CVA, can get back to profitability, okay? And we've got to back that story up with detailed cash flows and projections showing that if your creditors support this CVA, because we're going to need 75% of creditors by debt to vote in favour of it, this business can get back on its feet, get through the CVA, pay what it can afford back, and then get out of the CVA and keep trading. Once that happens, there's some negotiation with the creditors. The plan is presented to creditors, including HMRC, and they vote on whether to accept it or not. Remember, we need 75% of creditors by debt value to agree, okay? Now, once that's happened and they accept it, once approved, the next step, you've got legal action from HMRC and creditor pressure stops immediately. You then repay the agreed amount monthly and any remaining debt after that, it's legally written off at the end. So you pay that payment every month. Bear in mind, when you're in a CVA, you're going to have to keep up to date with all your current debts as well. But that's how it works. And the idea is step 5 is you complete the CVA and you move forward. After that agreed period, any debt that's not paid is written off and your business continues debt free. And it's been legally protected throughout the CVA. So again, the CVAs aren't for everybody, okay? Now, you would consider a CVA if your business there's a solid business in there and it's got some steady cash flow going forward. It's just crippled short term. You'd also consider a CVA if the primary pressure is historical debt rather than ongoing debt. It's helpful to have a decent relationship with suppliers in HMRC, or at least you haven't defaulted multiple times on time to pay arrangements. And it's ideal for you if you want to keep trading and avoid an insolvency process like a liquidation or an administration. It's helpful if you've got things like licenses to protect or accreditations that aren't easy to set up. I notice it being used a lot for hauliers with O licenses or businesses that rely on a CQC license. And if that's your situation, a CVA could quite literally save your business, and it can give you breathing space to hopefully get back on your feet. Another process we talk about is administration. And an admin is a formal insolvency process specifically designed for companies facing immediate creditor pressure like HMRC or enforcement. But the key thing here is we believe that there's significant value or potential in the business. So in simple terms, an admin it's like a protective shield. When your company enters administration, any pressure from HMRC and other creditors, it has to stop immediately. And the insolvency practitioner or administrator takes temporary control of the business. And they're trying to explore options to rescue, restructure or sell the business forward. And the key goal is to save as much of the business as possible, protecting jobs, protecting contracts, protecting assets, and actually getting a better return to debenture holders and preferential creditors like HMRC than would happen in a liquidation, okay? You'll have heard the term pre-pack. And one really powerful administration strategy is called a pre-pack admin. And here's what happens in that scenario. You get an independent value of your business. Your company's assets are all valued, so that's stock, equipment, contracts, goodwill, by an independent agent, okay? You get a new company set up. So generally it's with a connected company, you're still the buyer. There's a marketing period, and that's where offers are invited for people to buy your business. Okay, this is the bit that really scares directors, but I've been doing this a long time. Very, very, very rarely is a business bought from under your nose, okay? But at the end of that marketing period, whether it's 5 days, 10 days, 2 weeks, you make an offer to the agent. The agent will deem whether that offer is acceptable, and if it is accepted, you then get handed over to the solicitor who does a sale and purchase agreement, and you've basically bought the business pre-administration. You move off into the new company debt-free, and the shell is left to the administrator to close down, okay? All the assets are transferred, okay? You'll get time to pay for those assets. It's legal, it's transparent, and you have to pay the right amount of money that's accepted by the agent, okay? The key thing here is the debts stay behind. Crucially, the original historic debt, including HMRC liabilities, stay with the old company, which is subsequently closed through the administration, and you get a fresh start. So the directors can legally restart, keeping key assets, customers, even staff without the burden of that HMRC debt. Again, an admin it's a really, really powerful tool if you have a good business in amongst all these problems and you want to start again. Now, An admin, like a pre-pack, it will work best if your business has got assets in there that are valuable, clients, brand reputation, key contracts. It's helpful if you've got real tough creditor pressure right now. People are talking about winding up petitions, and it's helpful if you want to preserve the value of the business rather than liquidate it entirely. Remember, a liquidation is seen more as a full stop. An administration, from a PR point of view, it's seen as a rescue process. And obviously, there's got to be a genuine reason to keep trading. This business has got to be viable and it has to have future potential. And in these situations, admins aren't just a rescue option, they're smart. They're a legal strategy that will allow you to shed unsustainable debt and start again with a clear slate. Okay, so I'm going to give you a action plan now. If you've got HMRC debts that are weighing you down and you want to potentially write them off legally, here's exactly what you should be doing over the next few weeks. First thing, step one, you've got to face the facts clearly. List exactly how much you owe HMRC and list everything that you owe, okay? Get your returns up to date and confirm, am I past the point of no return here? Like, is there any way I can get this business back onto profitable terms? And if not, you keep going on with this process. Step two, stop making big withdrawals from the company personally. No dividends, no personal payments, okay? Don't be careful of who you pay from this point. Again, you need to speak to somebody like me to take specific advice on who you pay and who you don't pay once you become insolvent. Step three, get all your records together. You know, get things like the returns up to date, get all your statements ready, get all your creditor statements together and have them ready, okay? Have them ready for the insolvency practitioner and then pick the phone up and decide what the best path is. You know, is this a liquidation with a full stop? Is there a CVA here? Would that help? Or is this an administration? Do we need to do something really, really quick to protect the creditor's interests as well as yours? You've got to get the right advice early. Talk to someone who understands your position. Clearly explain your options and gives you time without asking money. If the first thing somebody is speaking to you about when you pick the phone up is they want to come down and sign you up and they want to get some fees off you immediately, my advice there is perhaps find someone else, okay? I want a close on this. You don't have to carry HMRC debt forever. The stress can stop now. Right now, you've got a couple of choices. Do nothing, keep hoping things are going to improve and risk everything. Or right now, take some control. Take some action. There are options that allows you to legally write off HMRC debts and protect yourself. So if you're ready to stop living in fear and start rebuilding your life and your business, reach out to us at Director First. Subscribe for clear, ongoing advice tailored specifically for UK directors. But more importantly, you're not alone. We are here to help you every step of the way. We protect you, we advise you, we tell you what to do and what not to do. Please, please, please pick the phone up. Chris Worden, Director First. God bless you.